Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Brainwaves Recruitment and Training. At the beginning, let me introduce myself. As it's written here, my name is Marina Lazic, and I am Vice President for Recruitment and Training at Brainwaves. And thank you for joining to watch this video where I will try to help you and train you to be ready for online presentations that we will have this following 2020 seconds in March, I believe so. Again, as it usually goes, we need to introduce ourselves just to tell you a little bit who we are. Don't worry, I won't talk too much about that. So Brainwaves that you signed for is a program sponsored by Parachute Canada. And our program is coordinated by Injury Prevention Center here in Edmonton. So this particular Brainwave programs is a pretty much free, informative, somewhere halfway along the day, where we present basis of neuroscience to students in grades 4 to 6. Actually, we, including you, if you go through this training. So our mission in general is to create safer Canada, and we are trying to do that by preventing serious and fatal injuries. And the way how we're doing this prevention is through evidence-based solutions that advocate and educate. More information on this you can find in the link provided here, Parachute link. That's the organization that sponsors us. And I encourage you to go to this website because there are very useful videos and there is very useful information that you can find on this website. Anyway, to move on, brainwaves in general, who we are and what are we doing? We are actually very present on social networks, and we are a team, and we have various team building activities that I will cover later on. If interested in joining us, I encourage you to look through our web pages, actually to our Instagram and Facebook pages, which I'm presenting here. We keep those regularly updated by one of our vice presidents who is in charge of social networks. And as I mentioned a few times, I am a vice president for recruitment and training, but we do have total 10 vice presidents and total 18 members of our executive committee, since 8 of our members are members at large. And we do have various team building activities, and we organize monthly meetings and regular consultations. So again, if interested, I am encouraging you to join us, and all info about our meetings you can find in our web pages on Facebook and on Instagram. A little bit about our executive committee. There are two co-presidents, two amazing girls, Alia and Joanna. It's really my pleasure working with them. And not just with them, there are other vice presidents, Warren in charge of materials, Dax in charge of promo and events. There is a Noah who is in charge in schools. There is a lot of work about interacting with, when we are trying to interact with teachers in schools where we are presenting. Noah is doing that. Stephanie is dealing with the scheduling. I mean, there are a lot of work behind of these presentations. So we pretty much get everything done by all these people. And my job is only to train you, which I really enjoy in. Administration. Again, as every organization, we have a lot of paperwork to be filled up, and Mark is dealing with that. And Ramesh, who is in charge in creating the presentation that I will show you in a bit. So to move on what are we going to do, actually what you are going to do first after you watch this video. So in a few minutes, I will lead you through the presentation that you will receive eventually, and that will be your basis. That's what you will present to children in schools. And don't worry, you will have a speaker notes that contain information about the brain in general. So there are notes like instructions, what should you say for each slide, but also there are additional notes, and those notes contain additional information that might be useful for you Simple to educate yourself if you don't have neuroscience background. You will receive an activity booklet with an answer key. Teachers in schools will have activity booklet that they will give to students, and students will have to fill up. And later on in this video, I will show you that activity booklet. It would be good for you to get familiarized with that booklet because that will facilitate your interaction with students. Additional resources that I'm encouraging you to watch are parachute videos, and there is a link that leads to them. Those videos are mostly containing activities that we usually did when we had in-person presentations. Some of them will still be done, but it's always good to see how children engage themselves in fun activities that teach them about the importance of the brain. And of course, there is an email, Brainwaves, University of Alberta, that is available for all sorts of questions. So please don't hesitate to ask. That's why we are here for. After you revise this video, you will have a quiz that you will have to pass, and we set up some standards, which are at least 80% of correct answers that you have to receive on the quiz to be able to be considered for brainwave volunteering. After you finish this quiz, you need to complete the brainwaver form, and there will be a link sent to you. So you need to sign that. So you will have to print it, sign, and scan or take a picture simple of it and get back to us. We do have to have this, and there will be a question in quiz. Did you fill up brainwave form? Again, you can complete a quiz, but you do have to have a form before you present. After you, let's suppose that you get 80% or more on the quiz, you will have to attend the interview, group interview with 2 of our committee members, and the time and date will be determined. There will be a doodle poll, actually, I think Excel sheet sent to you, and you can sign up for slot. When do you want to do interview? So when you sign up, then let's say you passed that interview, and then you need to sign up for a time slot when you want to present to children. It will be online, and then you present to children. Again, I will give you a couple of tips and tricks for successful presentation, because even though you might think presenting to children is the easy peasy thing, it's not. Children can be very hard audience, and they might have questions that you don't know how to answer, and I will cover that later on. Actually, at the end of this slide, it says, if you don't know the answer, just say, this is a great question. However, I don't know exactly. I will find out the answer and I will get back to you. And then you can tell to us and we will get back to teacher. But you never say something just to satisfy their curiosity, because again, children are hard audience, and they're like sponges. They soak up everything. So whatever you teach them now, that might be carried on through their whole life. And if it's wrong information, their parents will maybe find out that they learned it from us, and we don't want that type of reputation, and we just don't want to teach children wrong. You need to log in 15 minutes earlier on provided Zoom or Google Meet link. Why is that? That is because you need to talk to teacher ahead and ask the teacher if she or he has something to share with you about the class in general. Some classes have children that are very special. Sometimes there are children who are very active and they will always want to answer questions, which means that other people that are more introverts will not be able to say anything. And you should try to include and engage everyone in the class. So teachers know that, and they will usually tell you, okay, you need to pay attention to this girl, to this girl. And you also should encourage those children that are very interested. Maybe they will go to science and they want to know more. So teachers will know that, and you need to get ready for those kind of things. Or there might be a person who is very hard to control. So you need to be prepared for that. That's why I always tell people to log in 15 minutes earlier and try presentation. It happened to me once. When I was presenting in other organization, that I did not try presentation earlier. I was late, and when I shared my slide that had lots of animation, it didn't work. Actually, it wasn't visible to children. There were children at age 10, I think, at grade 10. They didn't see animation, and the animation was the most important to understand the point of my slide. So my presentation didn't go very well, and I really don't want that to happen to you. Again, make sure you know material before presentation. You will receive slides with the speaker's notes. Those notes will contain all information that you need to have. So I will point out some important things to memorize, but generally you can always have slides. Try to memorize as much as you can, but again, this is not an exam. Nobody will question you. We will ask you some things, but we will mostly evaluate your ability to react in specific situations, and there will be some simple questions. Like, this is not neuroscience examination. Speak clearly with loudly, like a loud voice, and try to avoid scientific terms, and that usually refers to people who are in neuroscience, because even though you might understand what means I can't remember something specific, but let's say olfactory area. Olfactory is a very scientific term, even though we will point out a few times. Maybe better just say smell area. Try to avoid complicated terms. Nobody likes them. I mean, unless they understand them, and they are children, so most likely they don't. And again, if you don't know the answer, do not say something just to satisfy curiosity. Just say, that's a great question, but I don't know how to answer. I'm so sorry for that. I will find out and I will let you know. And now let's get started. So from now on, you will see presentation that you will have to share with children. When you arrive, you should have some friendly note like, hey, how's it going? My name is Marina Lazic, and I believe that today is a great day to learn about brain. I don't know, did you watch Grey's Anatomy? I did, and I like quoting Dr. Derek Shepard, who says, hello people, it's a beautiful day for saving a life. So you can say, beautiful day for learning about the brain. And I always try to make some joke, like an icebreaker, because then children start laughing and they don't see you as a scary person who just came to invade their class, because you want to be a friendly person. Again, these things were much easier when we were interacting in person, but it's possible online. I did both and I think it's great. And then you will say, so guys, today we will talk about the most important organ in our body, and that is what? Brain. And again, there are no strict rules. How will you say it? Like, you have suggestions. All what matters is not to say a wrong info. So how you will introduce this slide, all what we want is to be friendly, to be enthusiastic, and to make people listen. Children, actually, not people, listen. So today we will talk about the importance of the brain, how to protect the brain. We will learn what the brain exactly does and how it does all sorts of crazy things. Most important, we will learn how to protect the brain. And again, I will tell you how I would present this. You can have your own style that might be better than mine. And honestly, I learn a lot from various types of presenters. So it's your choice. I'm just giving you insights. So when you are showing them this picture, it's a GIF, which means like showing up very nicely how the brain moves inside of your skull. When we had in-person presentations, we used to make this brain from a JELLO, and then we would carry it physically to the school, and children would be able to touch the JELLO brain. Of course, we had a hard time explaining them not to eat JELLO brain, because everyone would touch it, and that's really not healthy to eat later on. But the point of showing them this is how brain is easy to be damaged inside of your skull, because this is how brain is moving. It's like a JELLO. So vulnerable, brain is a vulnerable. That's what you want to show them. Then you ask them, why do you think that the brain is so important? And they will tell you various things. It helps us see, it helps us breathe. And you can tell them great answers. Definitely brain is the most important organ in our body because it controls our ability to think, to move, to see, hear, to be who we are. Tell me, since the brain is so important, what do you think? Is it heavy? And they will have different answers. So ask them, how much do you think the brain weighs? And they will let them guess. Some of them will say weird numbers. Let them guess and ask a few of them. Pick up a few guesses and then tell them, that person was right. It's around 1,200 grams. Anyway, how we do this? Now, let's move to the cell. So since we start talking about the brain, let's talk about some building components of the brain. So have you ever heard about the cell? And some of them might say yes, and then you ask them, what do you think the cell is? And if they are grade 6, I believe they would know that cell is a building block of an organism. But if not, you tell them it's a building block to our body. You can tell them that cell is like a Lego and we are like, think about the truck build of Legos, and Legos are cells. So something like that. Make analogy. Like if you have your own analogy, that would be awesome. Some analogies are given in the speaker notes. And then you tell them that human brain is made of specialized cells called neurons. Tell me one thing. Can you guess how many neurons are in our brain? And then let them guess. And then you say a lot. It's around 100 billions. And again, analogy. So tell them that the brain functions like a big message center. Like imagine a big message center where you have all those people sitting on their phones, sending and receiving and sending messages. So messages are sent and received in the brain all the time. So all those people that are sending and receiving messages via phone would be neurons. And there are nerves that are like cords because they connect phones from different parts of the brain. Most importantly, neurons do not grow back if they and neurons are building block of brains. So that's why it's important to protect neurons, because by protecting neurons, we protect brain. And then you tell them about how the neuron specific cell looks. Neuron has very specific appearance. It has short dendrites that are receiving messages and long axon that sends messages to other neurons. And this is very nice animation showing how the signal travels from one neuron to another. So from dendrite, received on dendrite through body of the neural cell, this thing looks like a starfish, and then it's sent through the axon, and then it's received, the message is received by another neuron. You can tell him here that neurons have different lengths, and that the length of the neuron definitely affects the way how signal travels, and there are different speeds of the signals in the brain are sent on different speeds depending on the neural length. So for example, to feel a temperature, so the neurons that regulate temperature have a speed 2 meters per second, where, for example, reflexes are very fast, I think 120 meters per second. So the length matters here. You can tell them that. Like if you burn yourself, it will take a while to feel it. But if you stab yourself, or if you have a reflex reaction, like somebody tries to hit you, you will just move very fast because of the different neural length. So longer neuron, longer time to send signal. And this is very important, concussions. So concussions are activities that you have to complete. So we always point out do concussion activity. That's the most important. For other activities, there are no many, but if you don't have a time because children have questions, memorize that concussion has to be covered. This is the most important. So you will ask them, what is concussion? Some of them might had concussion and they will want to share the story. So keep a track of time. Some people really want to share their stories and you want to cover all class. So let them share the story, but keep a track of time. 5 minutes, top 10. So explain them that the concussion is a type of brain injury that is invisible, and there are currently no medical tests that can detect concussion. So any blow to head, face, neck, or body which cause jarring of the brain in the skull may cause concussion. The most important, invisible injury, no medical tests to show it. And then you will play a guessing game. So you will show them symptoms of concussions here. And some of them are symptoms, some of them are not. And you will tell them again that concussion is a brain injury and can have a different effects on your emotional, physical, and behavior. And it's related to brain specifically. So based on that, what do you think that symptoms of concussion is? And then you ask them, is fever a symptom of concussion? It's not. So is sore throat? No. But dizziness and headache are symptoms of concussion. Then again, what about this? If you have a lot of energy, does that mean that you might have concussion? No. But if you are throwing up or you are very sensitive to light or noise, or you have a pressure in head, then you might have concussion. And again, if you have difficulty remembering, that's correct answer. That is a symptom of concussion as well as confusion. Anything related to the brain activities, but if you have obsessive thoughts, even though that is kind of brain activity, that's not a symptom of concussion. That just means you are obsessive. And the same with these symptoms. If you're feeling like you are in fog, that is definitely a symptom of concussion. But if you are paranoid, that means you're just scared and paranoid. You didn't have concussion. Again, here, if you're feeling very confident, that doesn't mean you had concussion. That's great. That means you feel confident. But if you're moody or grumpy, then you might have concussion. And if you're nervous or anxious, you might have concussion. If you feel excited, probably not. If you don't feel like yourself, then you might have concussion. And here you have divided like in the 3 different categories: is physical, cognitive, and emotional concussion symptoms, and basically all correct answers from previous few slides. So you just go briefly over this slide, but it's important for them to have this in mind and then ask them again, do they think that they have concussion? And ask them what they should do if they think they had concussion. For example, if they start feeling like not being themselves or like in fog, and then you bring up start activity. Stop playing immediately, tell an adult and get assessed. And the most important, take a rest. And take a rest means having enough sleep and not doing any activities that can affect your brain, even playing video games. So it's important to point out for them these things. Then you will emphasize that in order to protect the brain, it's important to wear a helmet, because helmet is protecting the brain from all sides, because it protects your head. And it's important to have a right helmet. So you can ask them, can you wear the same helmet when you're playing a baseball and when you're riding a bike? And you should say no, unless the helmet is labeled as a multi-use helmet. You can also ask them, what if you had a crash? Can you reuse a helmet? You should tell them, technically no, because helmet might not be effective as it's supposed to be. You can ask them, should you put the stickers on your helmet because that looks cool? They might say, yeah, why not? You say, well, technically, even though it might not look so bad, some stickers might have certain chemicals that react with the plastic from helmet, which might damage it. And most importantly, you need to follow 2v1 rule when you wear helmet, and then you demonstrate 2 fingers above your eyebrows, 4 fingers to make a V shape on your ear, and 1 finger under the strap. Because if you don't wear helmet right, then the helmet is useless. And another question, should you wear a helmet or baseball hat or ponytail? No. You can use multi-use helmet, but technically there is a special helmet for baseball, special helmet for riding a bike, and you should follow that rule. And then you move to the anatomy of a brain. So it's important to tell them that brain is complex organ, and in the next few slides, they will learn how the brain actually looks inside of the skull. So brain, and then have them open their activity booklet, but again, teacher will do that. You will tell them to turn, I think, page 1 or 2 in their activity booklet, and tell them to label their, and the teacher will take care of that because the teacher is in the classroom. So they should label a brain, different lobes of the brain. So brain has 4 lobes, the frontal lobe, and each of them has specific functions. Parietal lobe, so frontal lobe is controlling thinking. So without a frontal lobe, you cannot do your math homework, for example. Parietal lobe is controlling taste and touch, so you wouldn't be able to feel something sweet or your teddy bear fuzziness. Temporal lobe, which controls hearing and smelling. So without temporal lobe, you wouldn't be able to hear music. And last but not least, occipital lobe, which controls vision. And mention that there is another very important part of the brain, cerebellum. I like to call it small brain, and that's not part of the lobe, but it's lobes, but it's very important part of the brain that controls your balanced moves. So you would just stumble if you damage cerebellum. And since you already pointed out what would happen if you damage, like you wouldn't be able to do your math homework if you damage frontal lobe, ask them what would happen if they damage one of lobes. Would their life look the same? How would they feel? And they would say, no, nothing would be the same. We wouldn't be able to be ourselves anymore. And then you will have like mini activities. So let's practice, and you can repeat here what each lobe controls. I suggest you to familiarize yourself with different activities of each lobe. So for example, frontal lobe controls thinking, like solving problems. Parietal lobe controls taste and touch. Temporal lobe controls hearing and smell, and occipital lobe controls vision. Now go forward. So Rob fell off a bike. He didn't wear a helmet, bad Rob. He came home and he couldn't do math homework. Which lobe is damaged? They should say frontal lobe. Same here. Brittany fell off a snowboard. Bad Brittany, wasn't wearing a helmet. She came home. She couldn't see very well on Netflix TV shows. What was damaged is occipital lobe. And then you start with the 5 senses. You can actually tell them, ask them, do they know what's their favorite sense? And they will tell you. And then you can ask one of them, whoever was first. So why? And they will say, well, I like sense of touch because that helps me hug my fuzzy teddy bear. You're like, wow, yes, I agree. You know, my favorite is smell because I like smelling of flowers. Like that little bull called Ferdinand who liked smelling of flowers. Did you watch that cartoon? And maybe they watched it. And then you ask them, so do you know any other senses? And they might read and say, oh, smell, taste, hear. Somebody will maybe say, I wish I lost my sense of hearing because I don't like noise. You will be, oh, you think? Let's talk about that. Try to catch some of those phrases, and then that's how they will memorize. So would you like? You said you would feel much better if you, let's say, lose the sense of smell. Let's see, is that good? We will see in a couple slides. Let's see, smell. Who likes sense of smell? They might say, oh, yeah, I do. It's like, is it bad or good? Do you like it do you like it? Do you like sense of smell when you are about to sense a nice perfume? But do you think that your mom likes smelling your smelly socks? So make some kind of joke about that. And then ask them, actually tell them that there is a very special way how the nose, which is an organ for smelling, works, and it's tightly connected to the brain. Inside of the nose, you have something called smelly or olfactory area. Again, scientific terms, olfactory. Even though we are putting it here, they will probably memorize the word smell rather than olfactory. So there are receptors in nose and smelly area where special chemicals are attached. They're called odorants. Like you smell that, they attached. Like think about smelly area as about a parking car, as about parking lot, and those molecules that are smelled are like a cars that are parking, and then the signal is sent through olfactory bulb all over to the olfactory center, where you actually receive the message about specific smell. So think about that as a parking lot in nose. Chemicals that you are smelling are cars. They park there, and then there is a camera which would be like sending a signal to the brain, which is a center that detects people who parked. So if they didn't pay parking, they can get penalized. So basically, the brain would be an Edmonton parking service. So, and then that's how they will memorize. Now, let's think about which lobe controls smell. So remember what we were talking about, which lobes control what? So frontal lobe controls solving of problems, parietal controls taste and touch, occipital controls vision, and temporal lobe controls smell and hearing. And there are steps to the brain, and you will have this for each of senses. Substances that you smell are called odorants. Those would be cars that are parked in olfactory or smelly area in the nose, and in the brain they are perceived, which is Edmonton Parking Center or temporal lobe. And again, you ask them what would happen if you hurt your temporal lobe, and said, would it be good to lose your sense of smell? Some of them might say yes. You say, wow, so you would like to get anosmia. Can you think about some bad sides of losing a sense of smell? And somebody might remember. If they don't, you say, what if you are in the building when there is a fire and you are not able to feel a smoke, or you might cannot see it because you are closed in your room and the smoke doesn't come, or until the moment when smoke comes, this is too late. So if you couldn't feel it, if you have anosmia, you would be hurt. So it's not good to lose sense of smell. Then you move to the sense of taste, and you ask them to share with you what do they like to eat. Like, do they like food or drink? I'm currently drinking. You will probably want to have some water or something, whatever you like to drink, because when you talk, your mouth gets dry. At least I'm like that, so I need to have something to drink. Then you can ask them, did you notice that when you get sick, when you have a cold, your food doesn't taste so well? Why is that? And then you will tell them that smell and taste work together, and that's why your food doesn't taste very well when you're sick. Then you move to the organ that controls a taste, which is a tongue, more specifically taste buds that are distributed all over the tongue. And you will tell them that taste buds are distributed on different sides of the tongue, and there are most taste buds on the front. That's why your food tastes better on the front. We used to have the activity where we would give them dissolved sugar with a cotton swabs that they would put in different parts of tongue, and then you would ask them how that tastes and where did they feel most where did they feel better taste on the front or on the back of the tongue? And you tell them that the different sensation is because of the different distribution of the taste buds. And you will tell them that there are most taste buds on the front and less taste buds on the back. And you will point out there are different tastes. And of course, you can ask them what taste do they like. And ask them if you want, if they ask them to share some story. What do they like? And they will tell sweet, sour, salty, whatever. Sometimes we will mention umami taste, which is combination. I forgot, I think sour and salty, but we are not putting it here because it's not official taste. And of course, you ask them which lobe controls taste. It's parietal lobe. That's why it's important to point out these 4 lobes plus cerebellum. And again, signaling. Substances that we taste are called tastants, analog to deodorants in smell, and they are received on taste buds on your tongue, and the information about the different tastes, like a salty, sweet, or sour, is received on parietal lobe. And then you move back to the vision. To me, this was the hardest sense. And when I had my class, General Physiology, I got a question. I think I got a question about vision. It was really hard. Eye has very complex physiology. You will tell them that about the different and about the complexity of the eye, and you will tell them there is an eyelid that protects the eye. There is a sclera that is actually like a filter. Sclera is, I think cornea and sclera are part of this, have the same. I think cornea is below sclera. So they're like a filter that again protects your eye. Pupil and iris are there to receive and accept light, because light is the signal that is received in the eye. And there is a lens that actually focuses that light and creates an image. And you can tell them that tears are there to clean the eye. So even though they are emotional expressions, their physiological function is actually to clear the eye. And then you will show them how the eye looks from the inside. So again, you can say that the eye has a sclera, or actually cornea, that is like a filter. There is a lens that focuses a light, and the light is received through iris and pupil. And there is an optic. There is a retina which contains cells called rods and cones that you will cover in the next slide. They are actually quite important. And the optical nerve leaves the eye at the blind spot. There are no rods and cones there, and then the signal is sent to the brain, to the occipital lobe, which we'll cover later. And then talk about rods and cones. Cones are in charge for color vision. Rods are in charge for night and black, white, dark vision. Then you will tell them that light is received through iris and pupil. Image is focused, actually light is focused through lens, and then the image is created and seen in the brain, in the occipital lobe. And again, steps to the brain, signaling. We see light, analog to the odorants and tastants. Lights are received on retina. Again, remember in sense of smell, you had olfactory area. In sense of taste, you had taste buds. So that's the place where the signal is received. So like a second step to the brain. Here, first step is light, second step is retina. Retina has 2 types of cells, rods and cones. Rods for night dark vision, cones for color vision. Memorize like that. See color, see cones, like that. Information from retina exits eye at blind spot, and information is received on occipital lobe. So this is their activity, and they should have it in activity booklet. And now you will go through the activity related to the vision. So they usually like this, so you need to be prepared for this activity. So first is color after image. So you will tell them to stare in this picture for 1 minute. You will time it and tell them do not look around. So straight to this image. After 1 minute is done, you will turn the slide and they should see inverted colors. So you will explain them that this is happening because of brain activity, first of all. So there are some opposite colors. For example, yellow, blue, green, red, black, white are opposite colors. So you never saw greenish red or bluish yellow color. And why is this happening? So if you stare in one color for a long, long time, your brain and receptors in brain gets tired and removes block from the opposite color. That's why when you move to the white one, your brain projects opposite color. It doesn't work for everyone, never worked for me. So tell students that it's individual. For some people doesn't work, so that doesn't mean they're necessarily crazy. That doesn't mean for sure they're crazy, but tell them do not be disappointed if it doesn't work. For some people it works. For example, for me never worked. And then you will have a few of these pictures like Canadian flag, American flag. Then you will show them reversible figure illusion, ask them what do they see first. Some people would see a vase, some people would see two faces. Again, don't tell this to children, but there are, I mean, I used to read these magazines where they would say, depending on your personality, you will see one or another. I personally don't believe in that. And maybe children know that. So if they tell the story, you show the interest, like, this is interesting. Let's see, what would that tell about my personality if I saw a vase? Does that mean I like flowers? Try to make those icebreaker comments, just to put yourself out there as an approachable person. Children like that. And then you move to the hearing, sense of hearing. So you will have this activity time at first. And I will, for a second, I will stop sharing this presentation and I will show you how this website, how this page looks. So you will tell them to, I think teacher will do that, to go to the website, and let me share my screen so I can show you how this activity looks. So it's a test for hearing, and I don't know, maybe it wouldn't work for someone. So the page looks like this. So again, if you click on the link in the notes in the presentation that you receive, you will see this. So you want to see how old is your hearing, and it's actually pretty accurate. So you would click to group test, and then you will hear the sound. So I will play it now. It's a start test. So, and then you can ask them, so who is older than 20 here? And surprisingly, this is very accurate test. Like I'm 30, actually I'm still 35. I will be 36 this year. And I stopped hearing at the age of 35. So it's accurate, very accurate. Anyway, then you could tell them, why do you think you need hearing? Why it's useful? Would you like to lose sense of hearing? And then you can say it's important for communication. We hear each other. It's important to hear the fire alarm when there is a danger. And of course, for the music. Who likes music? Something like that. So, and then you tell them that there are 3 parts of the ear. Familiarize yourself with the general structure of the ear. Like there are additional notes. I suggest you to read them and to know those things, but you don't have to complicate it too much. What is important to know is that there is a outer ear which collects sound waves. There is a middle ear, and it's important to mention 3 smallest bones in the organism, which are part of the ear, and they are ossicles. They are malleus, incus, and stapes. So tell that to students. They will probably not memorize those names, but it's important to tell that 3 smallest bones in the organism are actually part of the ear. In the inner ear, there is a cochlea, which is very important organ. And then you tell them that the lobe that controls hearing is temporal lobe, and the same lobe is controlling a smell. And again, steps to the brain, like we had for every other sense. We hear sound waves in the same way how we see light, and the sound energy is received in cochlea, in inner ear, the same way how light is received in the eye and later on the retina. And there are some hairy cells in cochlea that transmit information to the brain, and their information is received in temporal lobe. And this would be all. At the end, you will thank them for listening to your presentation, and you will encourage teachers to do to scan this code and to do a survey to help us improve. And of course, you will tell them there are extra videos on a Parachute web page, and encourage them to watch if interested. And also for your information, if you have more questions, please don't hesitate to email us, and encourage children also, they can email. Actually, probably teachers will email us if they have questions that you didn't cover. And again, never say incorrect information. Tell that you don't know, emphasize it's a great question, and then you can tell us and we will get back to them to satisfy their curiosity. Now, my idea was to share with you the activity booklet that you will get. Again, it's really important, and for you and for us generally, to have the best people presenting. So I suggest you to know very well this info and follow it. It's not long. It's important for you to see this. So this is an answer key that you will get. You can encourage children to write their name, but teacher will also do that. They have some matching activities. So this is a guessing game in concussions. So try to know which activities are there. Actually, don't try, know which activities we have. Again, STAR activity, how we prevent injuries. This is for us this is very important for us because our mission is to prevent injuries. So STAR activity, memorize that. Labeling of the brain, very important. This will go through all presentation and the different senses. So they have unscramble letters to discover 5 senses, and then they have matching activities. And again, there are steps to the brain. You probably noticed for each of 5 senses, there are steps to the brain. Since I'm a molecular biologist, I call that molecular signaling. You can call it just steps to the brain. It's completely fine. And that would be all. So again, if you have questions, don't hesitate to email us to our Brainwaves U of A email. And my hope is that we will have QA session once when you complete the quiz and once when you pass group interviews. You will get more information definitely on group interviews as we are moving forward. Good luck on the quiz. I hope questions were not hard. We did our best to make things not too difficult, but enough to select the best people, because that's our mission and our goal is to have the best people here. Have a great day. And again, if you have any questions, just ask. We are always there for you. And thank you for being interested in brain waves. So we are looking forward to having you here soon.